Sampath always believes banking beyond transactions. When you speak the word Sampath, that is one of the most innovative banks in the minds of people. From bringing in the first ATM card to the market into touchless ATM to the very recent 10-second loan. When you want to take cash from ATM, the first thing you need to do is you need to touch the keyboards and the keypads, right? So we introduced what we call the touchless cash withdrawal, where people can walk into ATMs, just scan the QR, and without touching anything, you can actually withdraw the cash and you just touch only the cash that is coming out.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Echelon Brand Finance 100 Most Valuable Brands 2025 edition. And today, our focus is on Sampath Bank. And joining me is Tharaka Ranwala, the Chief Marketing and Bank Assurance Officer of Sampath Bank PLC. Welcome, Tharaka.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm glad to be here.
First, congratulations on getting on the list this year as well.
Thank you.
The banking sector, Tharaka, is very competitive. And in this competitive sector, where does Sampath Bank, interpret its current brand positioning, particularly when you look at bigger rivals like the state banks and larger private banks as well?
I think it's a very good question, and I think fundamentally, when you look at Sampath as a brand, we believe that we differentiate ourselves in three main pillars. I would say innovation pillar, then the other one is the human values pillar.
Exactly.
And I would say the other one is more on a solution orientation pillar. So if I try to just briefly explain to you from start from the human value connotation, Sampath always believes in transactions, just banking beyond transactions. So we are very focused on the empathy as well as being very customer centric. And then comes innovation. I don't think we need to talk about it much, because when you speak the word Sampath, that is one of the most innovative banks in the minds of people. So from bringing in the first ATM card to the market into touchless ATM to the very recent 10-second loan, Sampath always keeps innovation. So I think in that light, innovation is part of the DNA. So then comes the solution orientation. There again, I need to say that Sampath always looks at what we called providing a real value proposition to the customers, not just giving just a solution, right? Exactly. So that is what the three main pillars in what the brand stands for in Sampath, and we believe that we differentiate from the rest of the pack as a result of these three main pillars.
You mentioned some specific examples of innovation, specific examples of service quality and so on. How have you weaved that into the brand strategy, and how do you measure your performance using those metrics? Say, for example, time for transaction processing or something like basic banking metrics which others use.
Well, if you really look at it, we try to go beyond the normal banking norms, right? I believe a good and a positive brand actually tries to live that. But that doesn't mean that we do not consider or look at the normal banking practices. So how do we do that? I would say number one again comes the innovation. We always tries to bring innovation that will add value to our customers. That's the main point. So you bring innovation, we always make sure that those innovations result in customers having been able to do their banking much more faster or in a conducive and a convenient environment. So I would say innovation plays a key role. And I would say the second one is the service quality. Because Sampath as a brand, we believe that every other bank can emulate what you do in banking connotation. I'll give you an example. Today, if Sampath comes up with a new product, chances are that another bank in another month, if not earlier, would copy it and you can bring it out. But where do you differentiate as a brand from the rest of the pack is the fact that the service delivery that you bring in. So we believe service quality and the service delivery plays a huge role. That is why we, as much as we spend on the brand, we spend on our staff and get them attuned to the service quality. So I think those two predominantly makes the real difference in what we do as a brand.
Okay. And you mentioned about, the kind of investments you all are making. Coming to specifics, what specific innovation and investments that you all have made in digital or otherwise that you have undertaken to shift the public perception away from Sampath being just a bank to something well beyond that?
The most important thing that we have done is that we have invested heavily on our technology side. That is why you find products like touchless cash, right, that we introduced during the pandemic. If I take your mind back to the pandemic, one of the critical problems that a lot of people faced was that you were scared to touch anything, right? And you are now homebound, or rather you're confined to your home, and you need you find people in lorries and all that bringing in your essentials, but not all had cards. Exactly. or at the POS machines. So you needed cash. When you want to take cash from ATM, the first thing you need to do is you need to touch the keyboards and the keypads, right? Now we realize as a brand, now the biggest fear you have during pandemic is going to be the biggest obstacle that you're going to face in taking your money. So we introduced what we call the touchless cash withdrawal, where people can walk into ATMs, just scan the QR, and without touching anything or any dial in the ATM, you can actually withdraw the cash and you just touch only the cash that is coming out. So from a technology investment point of view, we have spent a lot of money and we have made a lot of investments. If I just give you some figures, we have spent over good 2 billion in different technological investments during the last year to bring in things like the touchless cash ATM, improvements to our payment channel, which is WePay, and then also the improvement to our digital banking, which is Sampath Vishwa. So all that, in my opinion, has gone into, for us as a brand, not so much from a money point of view, but as an investment to our customers.
I think the customers would appreciate that. In terms of all these investments translating into customer loyalty, higher engagement by customers across the different demographics, how do you track these and how do you then feed back the information from that in your decision making?
Sampath invests quite heavily on research as well as on development. Now, on our research, we conduct a annual brand health study. Actually, we from about a couple of years ago, we shifted it to doing it every 2 years because we realized that you need a certain amount of time to what you gather through the research to put it into practice. So we spend on things like the brand health study. Then we also use a lot of research on specific product related research and findings to find out exactly how our customers think and feel about our brands. And not only that, actually within those researches also, we also try to find out the real pulse of our non-customers, what they are looking for, to understand whether we lack anything which our non-customers are looking for, and thereby that is the reason that they are not with us, or to find out anything that we need to improve. So those findings are channeled to our main touch points, which is our branch network and the frontliners. Most of our training programs and our training and development sessions are structured based on those findings, as well as we make improvements to our other touch points like the digital platform, the WePay, and keep improvements being made. So I would say how this question connects to the previous one is that we invest quite a lot on our research as well, and it's an ongoing thing.
Banking by its very nature, it's a highly regulated industry, which means that there's a lot of standardization, a lot of compliance, which can kind of dilute the dynamism of a brand. Any bank, how has Sampath escaped this and kept freshness and uniqueness in its brand?
Well, I would say that it goes without saying that if you're in the banking business, you need to adhere to your regulator. So it's a norm, right? So what we do probably maybe a little different to the rest is that while we maintain and focus on the regulator's role and what we need to do, we try to, within those parameters, try to make sure that we do things looking at the real customer value generation. So when you look at it in that form, what happens is we try to maintain the real requirement of our regulator, play by the book, but at the same time go a little further in understanding and identifying what our customers need and try to deliver. And I think innovation, which I mentioned before, plays a huge role in this, so that we use different innovative methods to bring out what we really want from for our customers. So at the end of the day, regulator need to do their role, right? And we need to abide by that and adhere to that. But at the same time, we try to give real value to our customers, and the fact that we are being featured in the 100 most valuable brands for this year shows that we have done well in trying to manage the. Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. Last few years, we all know has been a tough time for Sri Lanka. The economic crisis, COVID, Easter Sunday attacks, so many different things impact now, trade tariffs impact in the country as well. Has there been a challenge, where, you've had to manage costs, but also build the brand at the same time, because it's a very competitive industry? And how have you managed?
Yeah, I think the direct answer to that is yes, we have faced many challenges. We also have gone through looking at and in fact cutting down on brand activity costs, because at the end of the day, you would agree with me, whenever the economy hits you hard or when you have a difficult time, the first thing that you squeeze is the advertising spend, right? So we have also gone through that. But however, how we have done is that we have found ways in which to maximize the limited budgets that we have had. So what we have done is, in one instance, I can give you an example, is that we have looked at more non-traditional advertising and communication to take the message to our customers, like using digital platform. So while the traditional ATL advertising would cost quite a lot, we were able to use the digital approach and maximize the spend that we have. The other one is that we have also used our 4,000 odd staff members as a communication methodology, because one of the key ingredients that we instill in them is that we say, you are 4,000 odd brand ambassadors for this huge and most innovative brand that we have. So each one of us carry that message across. And I would say that with the limitations or the cuts that we had on the budget, we were able to do what we are doing because of simple things like this. But at the end of the day, Sampath always believes in not mere brand building, but communicating what we have and the value that we bring to our customers, and we believe that it's a duty that we need to do. So we have been doing that quite well, in fact, and was able to make use of the limited budgets that we used to have.
In a service industry like banking, customer experience is critical. What internal mechanisms does Sampath have to ensure that your brand, what your brand promises, is delivered in both the physical stream and the digital stream? And how is it, how does the experience feed into your future improvements?
Okay, actually, that's my direct answer to that is that every one of us, we have our KPIs that we monitor and do for the year. Every single employee has customer centricity in some form built into your KPIs. So every one of us know that delivering exceptional customer value is part and parcel of what we do. So starting from the front line, the most junior person, going up to the managing director, we all have a KPI that we monitor ourselves, and the bank as a whole monitor for all of us, to making sure that we deliver exceptional customer value. And I think that is one of the main reasons why we consistently and continuously monitor on how our deliveries are and where the shortfalls, build some of those shortfalls into our trainings to develop the frontliners, and constantly keep monitoring it to make sure that we deliver that. So I think as a team, we eat, drink, and live this brand. One reason for what we have done well and being here in this whole list, I think, is the reason of all of us having that focus right from the bottom going up.
Excellent. Banking is changing. Banking and finance is changing. We are going to more decentralized finance, fintechs, platforms, blockchain. The whole open banking revolution is happening. In that context, how do you see the value of a brand like Sampath in the long term?
Well, I would say it's a huge challenge that the banking faces. Banks are heavily regulated. Fintechs are not. So as a result, fintechs can do within quotes, but what they want to do much more freely than banks. So it's a huge challenge. But I would say Sampath as a brand and as an entity, we saw that way before. So as a result, we actually opened our doors into a more collaborative kind of dealings and reasoning with fintechs rather than trying to do what they are doing. So as a result, we have a lot of fintechs tie-ups with us. I'll give you a classic example. Sampath e-remittance as a sub-brand of Sampath brand. We were one of the first banks, if not the only bank even now, to move from traditional rep being in different corridors talking to Sri Lankan customers into fintech-based app transfers where the remittances from overseas come in. So today, I think good part of 50% of the remittances that we get as a bank comes from our fintech using the apps. Because of that collaborative nature of what we have done, we have been able to sort of go hand in hand and not left behind. So the future, how we see it, if we continue in this momentum, is that we will do really well and we will have good partnerships coming so that Sampath, we, as a brand, also will evolve as much like a fintech brand while being in the banking field.
On that positive note, Tharaka, Ranwala, thank you for sharing the Sampath brand story.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and we wish that we will be able to continue this whole momentum as a very resilient brand into the future. Thank you.